go ahead and get started. Okay, at this time I'd like to call to order the April 20th, 2022 meeting of the Royal Oak Downtown Development Authority. This is the time that we do public comment. So I do see we have some people here that want to speak today. If you just wait till you're recognized, and then we can have you up here right away. So anybody want to start out? Anybody want to address this board? If you have an item on the agenda for later on, you'll have the opportunity to address us at that time also. So anybody want to? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
2729 Trafford, former member of the DDA. Allegations that the 11 Mile and Main PUD will not have enough on-site parking when the new building replaces the main theater caused me to look into the parking north and south of 11 Mile. The 11 Mile and Main PUD parking, as augmented with the proposed new building, appears to be sufficient per day and night site visits, weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I've been after this for a couple of weeks. When there were 233 public surface parking spaces on 11 Mile prior to the city structure being built, theater patrons were observed parking in the surface lot and walking to the theater. The concern that the theater patrons will use the city parking south of 11 Mile is reduced now that it is no longer a surface lot. However, the fee structures between the city and PUD parking structures should be coordinated, since the city provides 2 hours free parking, which is adequate for somebody going to the movies. Additionally, we need to update the parking study for the 11 Mile city parking structure to reflect the building change of use from office to medical. We do not know the current level of occupancy and utilization of the medical center. The medical center will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays and until 4 p.m. weekends. So the medical center parking will compete directly with the local business parking. The city parking structure has 565 spaces. The medical center will have 300 reserved parking permits. It is understood the 300 parking permits are for the staff parking. It is unclear how the permit parking will be administered. So the net 265 public spaces available compared to the 233 surface spaces lost to the medical center and Centennial Park will be shared between medical center visitors and downtown business. This is a concern. Yesterday at 11 a.m., there were only 209 spaces available. Well, my understanding is the medical center is not yet in full operation. I recommend that countdown signs be installed on the city 11 Mile structure and the 11 Mile and Main PUD in order to emulate surface parking where one can drive around to see if there are empty spaces. We need to engage in a campaign to reduce public resistance to structure parking to benefit both the city parking structures and the 11 Mile and Main PUD. Safety is a primary concern. Perhaps panning type cameras should be installed in the parking structures. Signs could advise the cameras are continuously monitored. Now, I recognize when I was on the DDA and we talked about cameras, previous reluctance to installing cameras was the lack of personnel to watch the monitors. This could be done by auxiliary police officers or a person paid by the DDA. Finally, on-street parking. Please return to conventional on-street parking meters. The complexity of the new meters is discouraging on-street parking, which is negatively affecting business. Reduce the on-street parking time from 2 hours to 1 hour in order to increase turnover and encourage structured parking for long-term parking. And just a final comment on item 8, downtown window murals. It's a nice idea, but the windows are the eyes of a store. If it were my business, there's no way I would agree to have murals covering my store display. Now, that's going to be up to my tenants, but that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you. I'm going to give this to Tim so that if there's any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board at this time?
Thank you. Carol Hennessy, Royal Oak. Welcome back, Matt. Nice to see you. I have a lot to say about the parking, so should I wait?
No, I think now would be the appropriate time to do that.
Okay. I just would like to let you know what has happened to me the past couple weeks going south on Washington. I almost got hit by a car coming out of a space in front of Pronto's. To the north of this car was a heating and cooling truck. There was no way he could see any cars coming. And luckily I was going slow, he was going slow, and we both slammed on our brakes, and I mean, we were looking eye to eye. And he was shook up and I was shook up. And then another inch, it would have been a disaster. I mean, that's how close we were at. Backing in is the worst thing. I know I'm a woman and women aren't supposed to know how to drive, but I have a van and I've tried backing in and the cars behind you won't let you. So you go around the block and when you come back, the space is gone. And I need a handicap spot or a close spot or I can't go to that business. And so it's, to me, coming downtown isn't inviting anymore, which I hate because I know, a few of you know how much I used to come down there and frequent the restaurants and so on. Then I tried parking on the side street by Pronto's because I had a lunch date at Pronto's. There was an empty space there. It was the first time I was using the meter, and I followed the directions, and as I was walking away, a sign came up saying it was expired. I had been there 4 minutes. And I'm going, what the heck? So I went back through the whole thing. I did it like 4 or 5 times. I couldn't get it to work. So I called the police department, and the parking officer is fantastic. He said, I'll be right out. He came out, he tried it. It wasn't working for him either. So I didn't feel so bad. But he finally got it to work, showed us how to do it, and I feel a little bit more comfortable with it. But if it doesn't work, how is the customer supposed to know that? And then, and by that time, by the time he came in and everything else, we had already used up a half an hour. So that meant I only had an hour and a half for lunch. So I need a handicap spot normally, unless it's right in front. So I've been a member of the our credit union since 1969, and there's been a handicap spot right in front. I went and parked there the beginning of April, and last Friday got a ticket. I did not know that you have to pay even if you're handicapped. So I was really upset about that. And if that's the case, I'll pay the money. But I was never told that. So then I called the officer at the police station, and he informed me, yes, that was true. And I said, okay, fine. I said, I'll know from now on. But it's a $20 ticket, and I was only in there 7 minutes. I don't understand that. So my feeling is that if you continue doing what you're doing downtown, especially on Washington, the businesses are all going to disappear. Because, especially handicapped people, they're not going to go and they're not going to walk from the structure, So anyway, that's my piece about the parking. And I don't know if this falls under your jurisdiction, I can't say the word, but anyway, under your control. But why was the Main Street repairs have to be scheduled for May? Everybody knows we have the Memorial Day parade down there. Why couldn't you have postponed it till after? Does anybody have an answer?
My suggestion to you would be to, as opposed to this evening, address this question to either Mr. Brake's office or somewhere, either through email or make an appointment to come see him, and I'm sure he would be very accommodating.
Unfortunately, he doesn't answer his phone calls or his emails, so I got my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I address her? Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to say to you that I heard what you're talking about parking 30 to 40 times a day, but no one says it as nice as you. I need you yelled at and screamed at. But it is a total concern for the businesses of Washington, and it will be the single thing that makes me leave the city after 33 years.
Yeah,
It is, not to say a nightmare, it is.
I would love to go to your place because I've, always have in the past, and there's no place to park.
No. Hear it,
So, like I say, I feel sorry for all of your businesses around Washington. It's going to be a disaster if it doesn't get fixed.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the other half of the Harrisons. And my name's Laura, and I owned a downtown business for 30 years. I was the first chairman of the parking committee. I will tell you, with parking, you can spend 4 hours talking about it and what happened. When I opened up downtown, I opened up in March of 83. Nor Leather opened up in June of 83. We were eclectic downtown. We just were a total mixture of everything. We had a great time. I knew everybody in the area and totally enjoyed it. I was only going to do this for 10 years. 30 years later, I thought, it's time to retire. So I did. I'm not going to say much about the parking because you probably have heard it all. Michael, I tried to call you on the phone after you spoke after the last meeting, but we didn't but you were so right. I feel, as a former business owner, beat up about parking because the customers don't come here to complain about it. They don't call the police department and complain about it. No, they go to the business owners and they scream at them and they say, yeah. And then they say, I'm never coming back. It's sad. It really is. And I agree with my husband. I think we need to go back to the easier method, because what you're doing is most of the people that are closer to my age won't come back anymore. And we're the ones that have money, not the 20-year-olds. So, one other thing, Daniel, I heard about this things on the windows. My question is, are you just putting these covers on empty building windows, or are you doing it on all of them?
Can I address her?
Sure. Excuse me, Mike.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
The intent behind that program is an option for businesses. So it's allocating for up to 100 businesses in downtown if they want to participate in it,
Okay.
to receive them painted by a window mural artist.
Okay. My only, and you know, as a former business owner, our windows are the eyes. When you have customers walking by and they look in your window, as a retailer, that's free advertising, because they will either come in the store or they will remember it, say if the store is closed, and they'll come back. So it's having open windows, and I took a class in how to run a retail business, and the windows are the eye to your business. What do you think J.L. Hudson's did? They had windows on 3/4 of that building all the way around. And I used to look at them and buy.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you all today? So my name is Amanda Corey. I'm a co-owner of a business called Lost and Found Vintage. It's on Washington Avenue. We've been there for we've been in that location for over 15 years. We used to be on 11 Mile. So I'm sure you guys have heard already so many complaints about parking, but I can attest to hearing them also firsthand. And it has just been relentless. My coworker and I actually we got so frustrated that we actually started a petition against the parking, particularly the back-end parking, which I know was only done because the automated system has to, register your license plates, which Michigan does on the back of the car. So I know that was a little bit of a fumble there. But that seems to be like the main issue. The Sentry parking system also, I think, has glitches. But regardless, we actually have already gotten over 1,000 signatures from people that are very much against the parking. And it's actually quite disheartening to read the comments from people that are basically saying they will not come to Royal Oak anymore. I mean, it's unfortunate because I, even as a business owner who have my own frustrations with this parking system, I would really like for people to try and want to figure it out, but they don't. They don't want to park in the structures because anyone who is elderly or has a disability doesn't want to walk far to try and get to the businesses. It's confusing to them. They don't want to have to reverse back in because that's difficult. And then they don't want to have to deal with paying a $20 ticket if they can't figure it out. So their solution is to just not come to Royal Oak anymore. And I've read this through countless, Facebook pages, comments from people that are saying they just will not come to the city. So I understand the commission, voted in favor of this, and I believe they signed a contract for 5 years. So I'm thinking ahead, not this year, not next year, but then several years from now, where are all the patrons going to be? They're going to be in other cities where this parking disaster has not taken place, and then it's only going to hurt the businesses. And then, I think that's going to hurt the city in turn if you guys actually care about the businesses, particularly on my street, which all of my neighbors seem to be in agreement on this, unfortunately. I wish this was not such an issue. I wish it could be something that was just easier for people to figure out, or the system itself was easier, but unfortunately it has just been proven to be nothing but a nightmare. And for me, you know, as we've heard from other folks, the problem is that Lori's absolutely right. They come into the businesses to complain, and we don't really have the answers. I wish the commission or the city did a better job of maybe giving more information to the businesses so that we could provide that to the patrons, but we're in just as much of the dark as they are. So then we get the complaints, we don't really have any sort of resolutions for people, and then we just have to hear them say that they're not going to come back, which really hurts us, obviously. So yeah, my hope is that this system does not last for 5 years, because I don't think that it would benefit the businesses or the city at all. I wish there was a better solution. I know the state of Michigan, though, if I'm not mistaken, wants to change all parking meters to be automated. I think, right? But if that's the case, I wish maybe that Royal Oak would have waited until the state of Michigan puts license plates on the front, as opposed to having them on the back, so then people wouldn't have to reverse back in on an angle. But at any rate, so.
Have you noticed a downturn in your traffic on year to date?
Yes, I have.
So
Yeah, most definitely,
and
yeah.
This is COVID year to COVID year. It's gotten worse.
I mean, if you guys are, if you're interested, I can give you, you can read the comments, because.
No, I hear them every day. Thank you.
So it's sad to hear. You know, we've been in that location for 15 years. We have other fellow business owners. You know, Rail and Anchor has been there for a while. UHF, the record store. You know, Right Impressions has been on Washington, and it has definitely negatively affected businesses. And I don't have all the answers, but I know that this parking system was not it. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Other than the back-end parking, which is something
Sure.
Independent.
Yeah.
Can you cite any specific examples
Yes.
of problems with the system?
Yes. People have mentioned to me that they pay and the system still tells them that they have not paid. So I've had a couple of customers come in and they're like, I put my card in, I punched in the amount of time, and it's still telling me that there's no car there. And they're like, it's still blinking red. So then I'm kind of like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, I guess you can take a photo if it's not working. I think the other thing too that people kind of have an issue with is the 2-hour maximum, which I think is a little bit extreme, because I know in other areas of the city, I think, did you guys not extend it to 3 hours if I'm not mistaken? So on Washington, it's only 2 hours, which I think it should be more, because people have said if they want to go to dinner or they want to go into Fifth Avenue and, have some drinks and some food, they're probably going to be in there for more than 2 hours. So then if they get slapped with a $20 ticket, their solution is to just no longer go there. It's unfortunate. We have been telling people, we've been trying to push the structures we have, but again, it's people are creatures of comfort, and they want surface parking because it's convenient. Again, especially if you have a disability or you're older, you don't want to have to walk all that way. And I think for most people, it's just easier and more convenient for them to pull up to the meter spot, put in their change and whatnot, and then go walk to the downtown shops. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Hobrecht, and I own a building at 408 South Washington. I'm approaching my 1-year anniversary of reminding you that we do not have pavement in our alley. Detroit Edison is moving forward, I understand, to patch the alley. That's going to squander a lot of money. And my neighbors tell me that, for a special assessment, for maybe $250,000, that we can have this alley rebuilt. We pay about $750,000, maybe $800,000 collectively between the 5th, my building, and 301, Atessian, and Imaginate. We need to get ahead of this Detroit Edison money before it's squandered, it's gone. and we need to get on the agenda. And I realize that this year is fleeting, but let's do something for next year. It's a nightmare in there, the standing water. We have a new dumpster, and we have couches and mattresses. It's very disappointing. I'm willing to put our dumpster inside the building, but I need everybody else to do the same thing. And then we can clean up this alley, and we can all go forward. So please get it on the agenda, design the alley, and then let's implement next year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And since we're commenting on public comment, Frank, the infrastructure committee left it with you and the adjacent property owners to come back with a consensus on a plan, and that hasn't been presented yet on a consensus on a plan from the adjacent property owners and businesses. So it's really been in your court. It's not been sitting here.
It's
and that's
not my
been that
alley.
way for months.
It's not. I got to tell you a story also, is that I was threatened with 91 days in jail by a city employee for not repairing the alley. I'll bring you that document. It's not my alley. And also, you know that Atessian is at the throats of the Fifth and Stagecrafters. They're all in circuit court over the 7 parking spaces. It's a nightmare. But that's private land and they're not going to talk to each other. I'm never going to get any kind of a consensus with Atessian. He's a pretty interesting guy. But it's public alley. It's your land. And I just think we have an opportunity before Detroit Edison pumps this money into the ground and patches it, which they're going to do because Baker College is opening up in 4 months, allegedly. But that's their focus, is to get open. And we're going to run out of time. So they're going to squander the 50 grand or whatever they have. And then we're going to be stuck because at the north end of the alley where my building is, there is no pavement. It's dirt. And it's got a broken sewer in it. It's got rats. It's a mess. So, Mr. Twing, I don't know what I can tell you about my neighbors. They're not talking to each other. Everybody, they've all lawyered up. They're all in circuit court over those 7 parking spaces, which are adjacent to Stagecrafters. And I don't know what happened 20 years ago, but nobody's being neighborly. I just want the alley paved. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else want to address the board at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Move on to the next agenda item. Item number 3, approval of meeting minutes from March 16, 2022.
Move to approve.
Motion by Director Riley, second by Director Rossbeck. Any questions or revisions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Item number 4 is expense items, monthly expenses. This is for your information. Does anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Item number 5 is the parking system discussion. I don't know how you want to handle this, Mr. Twing. There's 2 different things here. Do you want to?
Well, the general part is a discussion, and then there's some potential action items afterwards on related topics. But the initial agenda item was a discussion of the parking system that's the city's installed. Police Chief Mike Moore is here, as well as Deputy Chief Keith Spencer, as well as some representatives from the MPS system. I'm going to turn it over to Keith Spencer to kind of lead the introductions, and then I think the intent was to have a question and answer discussion. So with that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Keith Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Twing. I want to introduce members of the MPS team who we've been working with. First, Paul Martin, the Chief of Operations. Next to him is Jake Elms, the Director of Technical Field Operations, and Mike Asher, the Chief of Technical Operations. We were asked to come here today to see what kind of questions you had about the new system.
Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to add at this time, or would you just want us to get into,
I think moving right into the questions would be beneficial.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll give you the opportunity to Director Riley.
Yeah, and my question, I'm sorry, not gonna be for you guys. Lori, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name. No, Paul. Amanda. Lori and Amanda, the two retailers, the two business people. If we could wave a magic wand and fix one thing right away, well, I'll go one at a time. Lori, what
Go
would it
back
be?
to the other parking system.
Would it be the parking system? Would it be the angled parking?
Angled parking, you drive in front.
So that would be yep.
I would say the reverse back in is the primary issue. Every parking system is always probably going to have glitches. You know, I know some of that you guys can't help, but I think the problem with selecting this system was because the intention was to have it automated to read people's license plates, which in the state of Michigan are on the back. So for Washington, it's been a cluster F because having to reverse back in has just been proven to be very difficult, counterintuitive. There's been all kinds of, traffic bumps here and there. So I don't necessarily have so much an issue with the Sentry parking system, although I know that in and of itself hasn't proven to be especially reliable. I think the two main issues are the back-in parking and then the 2-hour max of having to move your car after 2 hours, which I think that is also a deterrent because people think if I'm going to get a ticket after parking and paying there for 2 hours and then I go over, well then I'm just not going to park there at all and thus not go to the city of Royal.
And a point of order. If we're going to have someone speak, anyone that's watching this meeting, they hear nothing. So if you're going to ask, if I can kindly ask someone to come up to the podium, we can hear it in the room, but for playback purposes, this was, a few minutes of silence.
Okay.
So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, yeah.
That's my fault.
Yeah.
I should have.
And then I'll leave this with Lori. Lori, are the majority of the complaints that come from the customers on the angled parking?
It's both.
Okay.
We kind of come to the store, they're so angry, and they're not nice. They are yelling at you, like she said. They're not even in the mood to shop. So now you have an upset customer who's mad at you, and you have to go out there and help them with the parking system, and then they don't even want to shop. They're not. Their mood's gone.
I'm guessing that the problem with the angle may exacerbate some of the complaints with the Sentry system.
Both are problems.
And if I recall correctly, and somebody up here correct me if I'm wrong, but when this came out and this was brought to everyone's attention, it was kind of, that area in Washington was a bit of a quandary in that because of the way the meters were going to be read. And I believe the options were either, if we kept the traditional angled parking, then we would have to administer it as normal, as like surface lots, correct? Right. In other words, those wouldn't be in the Sentry system. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that
we would have had to hire.
What's that?
We would have had to hire additional police force to monitor the streets of Washington.
And I do believe that this board, whether it was a recommendation or we said something that we wanted to keep it the way it was. Yes. The only reason I'm bringing this up is the Sentry system. It is in its infancy, and there is going to be quirks brought up, and I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot more on that. And we do have a 5-year contract with them. And I'm not saying there's no such thing as low-hanging fruit in this situation, but if we could, do something, and we think it's prudent to, not right or wrong, but to change something, that we've given some time, that maybe it is something that we could discuss.
Hold on one second here. What I want to do here is drive this discussion towards the chief and the lieutenant over here and possibly involve the MPS people here. While we have them here, now's the time to be asking some questions as opposed to us just giving our verbal opinions about how we feel about things right now. So if we could lead in that direction, I would appreciate that from the board. I will start out by asking, and I'll direct the questions to you, and if you feel like they can answer the questions better, then you can just direct it right to them if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my question would be the system that's in there now. is it an adaptable system? And what I mean by that is can we one day decide that the 2-hour max limit is not enough? So we want to adjust that to 3, or we want to adjust that to 1. Is that easily done? Is that going to upset the apple cart?
I'll take that one.
And that was just an example of one of the changes that potentially could be made.
Thank you, Director. I'll take that one. That's actually a policy decision. That's not any decision that MPS has any part of. We've instructed them that the 2-hour max limit is what we've asked for, and that's a city policy decision.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may interject,
Sure,
the City
please.
Commission took that up in October or November of last year, and contemplated, making possible changes. So this body does not have that ability of changing that. It is 2 hours throughout. There is
Right.
no difference in that regard. When we talk about a potential parking study, I'm going to circle around to that topic, and there's a potential solution. But the short answer to that question, as far as what MPS can do, yes, they can do that very quickly. If the City Commission says it's 1 hour, they'll change it to 1 hour. If they say 3 hours, they can change that automatically.
I appreciate that. And a lot of the questions that I would ask, I already know the answers to, but I'm trying to hear the answers from them so that the public will maybe have a better understanding, or that may not know that. I would assume that it's more than just the limitation of hours. It's the how the system works and everything else. There's more policy decisions that the City Commission makes that directs MPS to implement those policies. Is that correct?
Not really. So many of the issues that are discussed have to do with the rollout of the system. So complaints that we receive that are best generated through the website is that there are weekly meetings that we have with the MPS team. So that doesn't get into policy, but how the app works, or if there's a particular issue with a bollard, whatever that may be, is those are addressed and deferred to the deputy chief. He can tell you it's a pretty interactive process on our part, and there has been some improvements that have been made. The app system, that when there are changes that are made to that has to be integrated in, whether it's an Android or an Apple type of phone. They have done several updates since the system has been put into place. So that's the best way to let us know. But where we can address specific issues, if there's an item where someone received a ticket or they were charged incorrectly, that's helpful for us to know. To say, I don't like the system, we can't address that very specifically without knowing that information of an issue that occurred to someone who was, for whatever the circumstances are. I would ask you to, and ask the chief, give us some statistics on the parking sessions and what are the amount of people having successful sessions that pay the adequate amount, leave, and that the system has worked. So are there outstanding issues? Absolutely. And there's also upgrades that are going to be made to the pay station when there's individual problems that occur, that they can press, in essence, a help button, and they can describe that further. So
Thank you. Okay, I have two more questions, and then I'll come right to you. One, something that Director Riley addressed is, at one point, I don't know who it was, but I think it was the prior chief came to us and asked us our opinion about the back-end parking, and we were just passing along what we felt would be most effective, and we were given a choice of 3 to choose from. Unfortunately, the one that we chose from the DDA wasn't accepted by the commission, and they went in a different direction. I guess, is that something that's still on the table for a possible change if necessary?
I might defer to the city manager and maybe some talks about a parking study that we might get into.
Yeah,
As
so-
a possible recommendation from a
Yeah,
parking
correct.
study. Okay, that's good enough for me. Thank you.
Save that question, Mr. Chairman, and ask that again when we
Okay.
ask about the Rich and Associates, and I will describe that solution.
Okay, my last question is to somebody from MPS. If someone would come forward, I would appreciate that. I guess I kind of want to know, you're obviously using this system in other cities across the country somewhere, and I'm curious as to problems or positive and good that you've seen in the other cities that are now a year or two into that system. And if you could possibly just address that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm Paul Martin with MPS,
Thank
Chief
you.
Operating Officer. So as far as other cities, yes, things have been positive. There's been some negativity with unique situations. In particular to Royal Oak, we did have issues with the rollout. As far as physical hardware and infrastructure we have put in, it's been extremely solid, stable, no issues from that perspective. The issues we have been dealing with have been software related. We have done some rapid releases to address some of those. There's 3 components to that: the mobile app, the pay station, and then the CenturyLink back office system itself. So we have took recommendations from the community on things to help address the restaurants and stuff, to where parkers have ability to report an issue quickly and go about their business, as opposed to having to go into the restaurants and bars and say, I have an issue, it wouldn't accept my coin or whatever. That is coming out in the releases we're working on this week, so that someone can report a problem directly from a pay station. It's all automated. It opens up a log of information directly between our operations and the police department's operations, where we both share the information, the situation that parker is experiencing, coin not accepted, credit card not accepted, etc. Where parkers choose to not report a problem, but they are having issues swiping their credit card, and there can be a variety of reasons why their credit card isn't being accepted. Our system will still capture that information without them even reporting it, and so that's all automated. It opens up a formal case in our system and is assigned to a technician to investigate, including the enforcement officers that come out and deal with coin jams, do testing to confirm that a credit card reader is malfunctioning, needs to be replaced, those kinds of things. So that's all coming into fruition in these next releases we're pushing out. As of right now, the overall system is stable. We're dealing with some unique edge cases that have been identified to us, and that's where, as people have issues, we really need to capture that information, that space, et cetera, so that we can truly understand what the situation is. And we're trying to implement enhancements to that, to where we don't even need them to report the issue. We can see it. So that is active development. And with Royal Oak, what's unique is in the evenings you have overlapping rates, where the the cost of parking increases in the evening, and that's where we ran into issues with that transition on many of the transactions when we rolled out.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is that the guidelines that were given to you by the city of Royal Oak, are they typical, or were they unique in terms of where in other cities that you've worked in?
That overlapping, that rate progression is unique.
Okay.
That has been our challenge.
Okay. Yep. Director Rossbeck, I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you. My question is for our police. On Washington, in parking, while I've seen the city put numerous signs up and a lot. I mean, are you seeing an uptick in parking tickets coming from that area in particular?
Not at this time, no. Can you hear me? Okay. Right now, we have the signage in place, and we're in an informational part of that enforcement. So we have ambassadors out on the street that are on Washington. I'm sure you've seen them. They're either wearing the orange vests. We actually got them new vests so that they could be out on the street to inform people on how the back-end parking is supposed to be going. So I don't have that information right now, because right now we're just in an information step as far as informing the public that this is a back-end space.
Okay, because in any given day, are you doing any kind of cursory review of the area and determining a percentage of cars that are incorrectly parking?
At this time, an official study, no. I've personally driven down that road at various times of the day, and I've seen when the signs are up that, in my observation, that I've seen a majority of the folks that are parked correctly. When the signs are down, that becomes a little bit more challenging in seeing the compliance with the back-end parking. So I think signage is a big part of making sure that the public are informed about the back-end parking on Washington.
Okay, I would agree with you, but I don't agree with that a majority of people are compliant. I will say I've been there in the evening, during the day, even in closer to the morning, and I would say at best it might be 50%. And if you are in an informational area, I mean, I've stopped people and told them they'll get a ticket if they don't correct their parking. Mm-hmm. I have not seen those individuals that you're talking about that are supposed to be ambassadors to this area. So I would like to see better numbers, even if you're in an informational phase of this. I still think that's gathering, even if it's loose percentages, I still think that that's better information than if you're not really ticketing folks at this time. So I don't have any other comments on the Sentry parking. I've used it myself, but I've experienced issues, but I think it was due to rollout. So those were my questions.
Director Keith.
Yeah, I was wondering, this would be more for the MPS, is how many locations do you have? How many cities are there? Is it 5? Is it 110?
So our Sentry solution is in approximately 130 locations, and I think we're just over 30 in different cities.
Okay.
Yep.
How many are back-end parking?
Not many. And the back-end parking isn't really a direct requirement of us. You can still enforce the parking spaces with our system and stuff through a manual handheld device, but that requires more enforcement officers. So
real quick, so now I'll ask the question. I mean, I don't know if we're in a unique situation in that, we have only front or rear license plates and angled parking. But my question would be, one, if you had any, technological advances coming down the pike where you might be able to handle that type of situation, or if you came to a state, a big city that was all angled parking and they only had a license plate on the back, you just punt and walk out and not deal with that city, or are there other ways around it? And I guess, and I'm asking a multi-part question, I apologize. And I believe what you're saying is that we could use the Sentry system, but we would have to have foot soldiers, if you will, monitoring it.
That's correct. I mean, we're continuing to advance technology and do stuff, but at the end of the day, we got to have visibility to a license plate. We can notify enforcement officers that a physical car is present in that space. We cannot tell them if that space has been, paid by that particular patron because we can't see their license plate, et cetera, but we can notify them. And so we're continuously looking at various options. Angle parking isn't a problem for us. It's the back end would be the scenario. That's a challenge because we focus on the license plates and only the license plates.
So if we were like to wave the magic wand and say, okay, we're going back to the old way of parking in there, we wouldn't have to change the meters. We would just have to enforce it by hand.
That's correct.
Okay, but the app still would work.
Yeah, and when we initially had our plan of installation and stuff, that back end parking wasn't even part of the concept at the time of the design. So
it sounds like that there's a lot of, and I understand, totally understand it, but something that's very unusual. The system alone is unusual enough, and when you throw that in there, there's a lot of consternation and issues involving, I'm not going to say a small amount of spaces, but a handful of spaces in a certain area.
The other thing, though, there's the negative side of, the tickets and stuff, but there's also the positive. Our system's the only system that exists that allows you to do the auto pay parking, where reading your license plate allow you to truly park and go about your business. Those that back into those spaces and we read their plate, they truly can do that. There's no, they go about their business. They don't have to interact with anything. In fact, they don't even need to have their physical phone with them. A parent could be paying for, a daughter or someone else, son or anybody, elderly parent. As long as we can read that plate and they're registered in the app for auto pay, it's touchless. So there's the benefit side of that too.
Yep. One other question. In terms of number of tickets, right? Not tickets as in what's issued. The tickets you're talking about where the credit card might fail or something along those lines. How many have you had, or how many are you averaging per day?
I don't have those numbers top of my head. I mean, the police department actually processes all those final tickets and stuff, and they might be able to answer some of that directly.
We can try and get you that information.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Director Keith? No. Any other questions? Director London.
Question for the officers. I'm at my store 4 to 5 days a week on average. I've never seen an ambassador ever on Washington. And I'm outside a lot helping people with the parking. So how often do they work? 1 day a week, 2 hours a day?
Currently we have deployed 2 ambassadors during the day and 3 ambassadors during the evening. And as the system has grown, they've had a little bit more area to cover. So it's not one particular area that they're dedicated to that one block for that entire time. But from 11 o'clock until 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., there's an ambassador somewhere out where the new meters are to basically look and see how folks are interacting with the meters, assisting them if they need help understanding it or if they have questions, and then also gathering information to report back to NPS if folks are having issues.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? It's a legitimate question.
Okay, could you come up front, please? We'll allow that right now.
Hi, I'm sorry. It's a legitimate question. So because I see people, we get this a lot in my shop, because I see people, they park incorrectly. So what's happening is they're pulling into the spot and then they pay for it. So my question, and to you guys, they're curious to know that if they are paying for the spot because they punch in their license plate, so they pay for the spot, but if they are parked incorrectly, are they still issued a ticket? I find that actually people want to pay, which is a good thing. They actually do want to pay for parking. But I think for folks that don't know, and I try to tell them, oh, you have to back into the spot. And then people don't want to move their car and park properly. So they'll tell me, well, I paid for it. So am I still going to get a ticket? And I often do not have an answer for them. So I was curious how that works exactly, and then if people are getting tickets for paying for their spot, but if they are parked improperly. So.
Right now, they're not receiving tickets. If they've made an attempt to pay for the parking, but they've pulled in the wrong way, we're not issuing violations at this time for that.
Thank you. Director Bright.
This isn't a question, Mr. Chairman, but to talk about kind of the evolution of rolling out the system. Initially, with the pay system, that someone could pay, but not knowing that there's a 2-hour limit. And we had a considerable number of individuals that went beyond that time. The 2-hour limit has been around for a long, long time. But now we went from, as the chief describes, 6 enforcement officers to over 600. So as a result, there was a number of individuals that were not aware of that. So then with the pay system right now is that you have to go through some steps that acknowledge that you realize that you know that there's a 2-hour limit. And that might be the explanation, I don't know of the circumstances that were mentioned at the podium, but of individuals placing the payment in where it's not being completed. The other thing, and then I will allow the deputy chief to describe further, is that it gives the system the ability to charge that credit card. So it's a matter of going through those extra steps to acknowledge that. Number one, that you realize there's a 2-hour limit. Number two, it's giving the authorization to MPS to charge the card. And that might be part of the issue of someone that's not able to complete the payment of going into the kiosk. But I think that's important to note that we've adapted the system, and especially the education component, because previously what was happening under the old system is that people would just continue to feed the meter and there was never turnover. Well, now it's being enforced. And so I think through better education that we have individuals, when you go to pull up, you acknowledge there's a 2-hour limit. We're telling you right on the pay station. You click on that, then complete payment. So something to be aware of. I know everyone lives busy lives and want to complete that very quickly, but that's that we acknowledge that in the system. So for the deputy chief, if there's anything else that should be, it's worth explaining that it has been a change within the last 2 months that on the pay station that you have to go through that acknowledgement. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And it was an enhancement to make sure that, number one, we're protecting folks' credit card information, because in case if there's folks that are nervous about using credit cards, this gives them an ability to confirm what their purchase is. In addition, early feedback that we had for the system was back in January is, number one, spot identification. What spot is mine? Trying to figure out what that is. We added information on the screen that, again, you have to acknowledge, so that way you know where to look for your spot. Not only did we make an enhancement on the screen, we also made an enhancement on the bollards themselves. So if you look at those sticks that are throughout the city now, they have that orange sticker on top of them, clearly identifying, number one, the space number, and number two, the 2-hour time limit. So it was, Mr. Breakage, in addition to what you said, it was really that educating the public and informing the public of what is expected of parking in Royal Oak, and that was, an enhancement to informing them of what their spot is and what the 2-hour time limit was.
So, and let's focus, one other item is very important on the use of credit cards. With that acknowledgement, why can't I just swipe the card and just leave? Well, without that, what can end up happening is that your credit card could be continually charged. So you use the card, you acknowledge that, you leave, another card comes in, that way that recognizes that as a separate session, then that individual, they have to go through that same process. Absent having that, there's that possibility that your credit card could be used over and over and over again. So it's a step of acknowledgement, but it's worthwhile pointing out to the board that again, that allows MPS to charge the card, and when the card leaves and that becomes a new session, it protects that person that credit card will not be used continuously. And would that be a fair statement of what I'm describing, and for Paul Martin and anyone else to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that it's akin to if you go on Amazon, unless you have one-click pay enabled, you have a confirmation process when you're purchasing something with a credit card. When you make your order, then you confirm your order, you make sure everything is correct, and then you have to hit that confirmation button. That's akin to that, to make sure that we're charging the correct amount.
Is that on the app as well?
What? I'm sorry?
The actual confirmation of the 2-hour limit?
Yes, it is.
Even if you're in auto pay?
If you're in...
It isn't.
What do you mean in auto pay?
Because I'm in auto pay. I'm in a concierge service that they stated. So if I just park, I do not know that I'm parking in a 2-hour. I just get charged per whatever the city puts in place for my hours I'm there.
And you can still get a ticket.
And I still can get a ticket.
So in the analogy of that you leave your phone at home and you lose track of that, right. You park and you exceed that amount of time, the parking system will stop charging you, but then it'll automatically issue a ticket.
But it does not acknowledge to me that I'm parking in a 2-hour zone. So it doesn't give me a notification that I'm in a 2-hour zone. So if there's some improvement there.
Yeah, so the app has notifications that when you're getting close to that 15-minute, from close to that max time, it will alert you that you got 15 minutes remaining before max time, etc. If it's up to each individual to, just like any other app, to accept or turn on notifications for the app to notify you.
Correct, but if you're notifying me within 15 minutes of that max time versus when I park there and just say, hey, this is a 2-hour limit area, I think that would probably lead to less upheaval if people do try to use the system the way you want us to, which is a concierge model, where you're not going up to having trouble at a parking meter or things like that. I think that's an enhancement that could probably help a whole bunch of us citizens in this room probably too.
Noted. We'll look at taking some of what's on the signage and stuff about the 2-hour max and put that as a pop-up when you select the auto pay concierge feature that you're accepting that.
Yeah, because I also think that even a pop-up that I'm parking in a backup-only zone would probably be helpful too, because I did turn this service on. So I'm just saying there's probably some opportunities there.
Director London.
Just want to ask, is there a grace period after 2 hours?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Wow.
Is there a helpline on the pay station? Or a phone number that if someone, or do you have to have the app to do that?
Currently, no, but that's something that is being worked on right now to come out. It not only includes what Mr. Martin indicated before about reporting the problem on this meter itself, but also with the help of Judy, we also have another feature with TextMyGov that is able to report problems to MPS and us. And then finally, there is a phone number to call the police department if you don't want to use one of the 2 previous features. So we've provided 3 means of communicating an issue with the meter.
Okay. Okay. Director London.
I just want to say overall, it's the time you get to the meter, I've already lost the customer. It's the back-end parking is the elephant in the room. Until we change that, I think you're gonna see businesses go out of business in Washington. I can't consistently have 10% less, 15% less, 20% of customers in my store every month. That leads to disaster. And this is a disaster. It's the back-end parking. You can fix the meters, do modifications, that will, great. But customers do not want a back-end parking. And for those who just dive into the parking spot head first, it's a disaster when they leave. Then now they're facing oncoming traffic.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no more questions for Chief here or MPS right at this time, I'm going to move on to item number B, which I think is going to take us into another area in this discussion. Am I right about that, City Manager? Okay.
Acknowledge yes.
Thank you. So we'll move on. Mr. Twing, what do you have for us on item B?
Well, item B was drafted by Daniel Hill, the downtown manager. We did have some discussion about preparing a scope of work for a parking study of the downtown area. Also attached the one from 2018 as an example of what was last done by Rich and Associates. That also included a price at that time of, I believe it was around $9,000. So what we're looking for from the DDA today is, one, are you interested in funding the parking study? Is the scope of work adequate? Are there other items that should be included? And I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Daniel, but that's kind of the request that's in front of the board. The only thing I would add to the resolution would be if you wanted to put a not to exceed dollar amount, so that when we go out and bring Rich and Associates on, and that would be my recommendation to you, since they've done several since 2006. They've done updates and turnover occupancy counts. I think we could get the best rate out of them, and they would be most familiar with the history and operation of the city. With that, I'll quit unless Mr. Brake would like to add something to the idea of a parking study, or Daniel.
The only thing I'll note that's different is, in comparison to past parking studies, is the approach here that we've internally discussed is doing a two-phase, whereas we'd be doing one more in the immediate term, but to acknowledge the fact that there's plenty of development happening around town, and that's going to impact parking in the future. So if we're measuring now in the next 2 months, that's to say that we should be measuring again in a year once more of these things are opening and coming online.
I just have one question, then I'll go to you, Director Yasnik. I guess my only concern with this is I've been involved in seeing parking studies done over the many years that I've been up here. Most of them have been involved with locations of parking, availability of parking, and everything else. And it seems to me that part of the discussion up here is a little bit of a different direction as to what the normal parking study would look like. And I guess I have concern about, spending this money on this parking stuff unless we can be assured that all the issues that we're discussing in this room are going to be looked at and addressed. And I don't know if you want to speak to that or not, Director Bright.
Well, here's a couple of reasons why I suggest you should vote yes for this. Number one, 2018 was a world away, and many things have changed with Henry Ford Health System, the 11-mile parking garage. We have a pretty sophisticated system. We have 600 surface or on-street parking, and I think 3,200 total when you include all the parking garage and the surface lots. We've had a lot of discussion, and these are more policy related. And the 2-hour limit, should that be adjusted? That's a big question right there. On the surface lots, the City Commission adjusted, I think, from a 3-hour to a 4-hour limit. Is that sufficient? Because of our daytime population, which has changed dramatically, before we were a nighttime destination, no longer having a major healthcare provider. It's a different environment here. Item number 2, angle parking. I would suggest to you that you have Rich and Associates view that, and this would be an important policy recommendation to make back to the City Commission. One of the trade-offs would be is that the Commission did consider is that you convert that to parallel parking. The downside is you lose a lot of parking spaces. Perhaps that's the lesser of the evils, if you will, than having the reverse angle parking. If they come back with that recommendation, that would be much stronger than just coming back and through anecdotal information that would not be strong enough of an indication to make a structural sort of change. But having information from a parking consultant, parking is very, very a sophisticated type of study. And my work experience of coming from another community that had similar size parking, we've dealt with similar complex issues. What I don't want to do is that we make a subtle change only to find out that doesn't work and then have to change it back. If anything, that makes it even worse for the merchants, that it's like, well, wait a minute, last month it was 1 hour parking and now you're going with 3. No, if you're going to change it once and be consistent. That's where Rich and Associates, I'd feel much more confident in the recommendation. But just with the inner dynamics of that and everything that we're dealing with, and this has nothing to do with MPS, but if it is implemented, it can be rolled out very quickly. I'm going to support this, and I would suggest if you want a dollar amount, just to make this on the safe side, is you add 20% and give the executive director a limit of $11,000 to conduct the study. So that is my recommendation to you, and a potential pathway forward to come up with a sustainable arrangement.
Okay, Director Yazbek.
I will make the motion to approve the resolution, $11,000 to engage with Rich and Associates for the parking study.
Motion by Director Yazbek.
I'll second that.
Second by Director Keith.
Aye.
Discussion, yes. Director Ross.
So since this isn't totally a typical parking survey, is it possible for these consultants to survey the individuals using these spots or like I said, actually watch the parking in motion? I don't know if they do that in terms of, especially on the Washington Street. Again, while you've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence and we're not in a ticketing area on that street, I do think that is a very unique situation within the city that probably needs a different type of review or observation. So I don't know if we can
Well, I can answer that.
Consultants.
Every study that Rich and Associates has done is they've been in the field observing turnover, observing use. They have interviewed various parking people to find out sometimes even where they're coming from. So I think they'll address that, but in the contract we write with them, we'll specifically ask them to look at all of these things and how they deal with it. And I'm sure they'll be asking for parking information from MPS, and from the police department, and what the experience has been, and do the background on it.
I would like to know if people are using the app versus going up to the meter, or even if they park in wrong, asking them, did you know how to park into this spot? I mean, even though there are signs everywhere, it's just, sometimes it's just blindness being a driver.
I agree that it needs to be, all inclusive to include all of the items that we've discussed here in the room and any others that may come up. I want to thank Daniel. I think he did a great job on this memorandum and included a lot of the items that were brought to our attention, but they were already in this memorandum. That needs particularly the recommended scope of work for the parking study. So I think that was a good job there. Director Woodhouse.
Yeah, would this study encompass all parking, decks, street level? Would it be, or is it just be focused on the metered parking?
The intent is for the entire parking system to be studied.
Okay. And has there, and I know I have an interest in certainly we heard an issue about handicap parking today already. And I know, Paul, you and I talked, and Deputy Chief, we talked about handicap spots that are available. So this would include like information on accessibility and availability of handicap spots as well.
Yeah, and I think it would help us better manage those facilities, because as we certainly, if we add handicapped spots, for every one that we add, it'll take out 1.5 of a regular parking space.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's a reason not to do that, but again, you're looking at capacity.
Sure.
What is the usage, and what do we need to accommodate that? But there's also been inquiries about having additional handicap parking spaces that on the parallel, the street level parking as well. So that would give us a good indicator, and they can also compare this to having that industry knowledge. That's where this is such a specialized field, and so would be able to give us better guidance.
Okay. Anything else? Director Yezvik.
I agree that this study could be very helpful. I don't know the timetable associated with the study, but I do know from observation and all the comments that we've heard, it sounds like the most relevant issue here is this back-end parking. Is there any, and I don't even know that we need the study to truly understand that that's a significant problem for us, us being the downtown, the retailers. I drive by that area every single day, and at best 50% are parked correctly. So this is a problem. And I don't know, are there current discussions on alternatives? You said parallel parking, possibly an alternative. I don't know if going back to the old front end parking is an alternative, but I would support that being discussed earnestly immediately.
So that does get into how you administer that. So we go from an automated system to where we have to add staff. And so is that a cost that you're willing to incur? Look, here's what I'd suggest is twofold approach. Let's go through this process and do the study. If there's additional education that needs to be done, whether it's leaflets or whatever, and make it known to the parkers, because if you park improperly, it's a $50 ticket. Now, the other side of that is that's a way of getting folks' attention very, very quickly. Does that help the situation? Let's talk to the consultants about that. So rather than making very abrupt changes, like I said before, because there are costs associated with restriping that, and in my professional opinion, we have one shot at doing this, and let's go through a trained professional that can better guide us in that regard. So I hear what you're saying, of that, it's a matter of also making sure that the signage that we have up there is up, and sometimes, wind can blow things down and needs a little bit closer attention. Point well taken.
I understand, and if there is any way to have Rich and Associates focus perhaps on that issue, because business, especially retail business, is very, very tough, and maybe people don't have months and months to study it. So if there's a way that we can get some maybe immediate attention on that issue, that might be helpful.
Why don't at a staff level, that's something that we can talk about on our end and come back to you next month, and then I think by then, Mr. Twing will have a better handle on what is the timeline, because we don't know what these folks, if they have other client studies and things like that. I don't think they're waiting idly by for us to this could be the latter part of the summer realistically is the timeline that we're looking at. But there's we'll discuss it on our end and see if there's something that we can do to help mitigate that, or at least to let know that there is something in the horizon.
Director Rossway.
Yeah, to add to Director Yesbeck's point, is there a possibility of phasing that so that you could get an immediate readout on certain parts of the parking system versus others? So we
can always ask, for sure. Director London.
I just want to take umbrage with what Mr. Briggs said. When he talks about the cost of the meter person doing the ticketing, rear parking, you're throwing away the cost of all your businesses staying in business. It's like, we don't care if you don't have any customers. We care about our parking being back in parking. And it is so sad to me. I've been here 30 years, and this is the biggest catastrophic event that's ever affected my business is this back in parking. It's not, I've dealt 33 years. I have seen everything. And I've lived through COVID. I have never experienced anything that has so drastically affected my business as this back in parking. You have to spend a day in my store to have people come in angry every single day, every single minute, angry, vowing never to come back, and then they're there, they don't want to shop. So it's not just they're frustrated. I mean, they are angry, and it hasn't gone away. And what has gone away is the customers. So less and less customers are coming, less and less are complaining because they're not there. And so I pay for that meter person every single day versus not having customers. So soon you won't have a problem because parking will be everywhere because no one's going to be left. It's like you're driving out of the stores and we're already hanging on by a thread, and now you're just chipping it.
Okay. Before I call for the vote, is there any other discussion? Seeing none. Okay, I just want to remind everybody that the DEA's role here is, to gather this information, listen to the business owners in the downtown, and then make our recommendations to the city commission. All ultimate action would come from the commission on any changes that would be made to this policy. So I know someone talked about petitions. If there are petitions out there, they should go to the commission directly. So that is our role. So no other discussion on the resolution for the parking study. I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Thank you very much for all of your time. Appreciate it. Very informational.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on here. Item number 6, Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce sponsorship request summer concert series. I do see Shelley is here from the chamber. So if we have any, you come on up, Shelley. Did this come from Daniel or?
He drafted it through the Consumer Marketing Committee, so
okay.
Daniel can.
It went from the committee, came from the committee. Okay. Daniel.
So absolutely. So some background information is historically this concert series has come to this body by way of the Commission for the Arts and their proposal each year. The concert's taken a 2-year hiatus because of the pandemic, and coming close to coming out of the pandemic. The Commission for the Arts has worked with the Chamber of Commerce to adopt, so to speak, this event because they felt as though the Chamber had more resources as well as more volunteer power to really power this forward. And so what we're seeing today is Shelley from the Chamber, the Executive Director, is here to talk about the nitty-gritty of it.
Hi everybody, how are you? I guess I can answer questions, or whatever you guys want me to do. If I can go over kind of what our plan is and our idea, and then you guys can ask me questions. I know some of you have already seen what I just passed out because we went in front of the CMC, so nothing's really changed. I just cleaned up some of it's basically the same thing. I just kind of made it look prettier. Anyway, so we were approached by the Commission for the Arts and to just take over the summer concert series because of what Daniel said. We do have the bandwidth, we do have the volunteer abilities. We have 500 chamber members that are businesses, many of them in Royal Oak, that we can get engaged in this in the concert series. We are looking at 6 dates starting July 21st and going through August 25th. They will all be on Thursdays. For this year, as in all the other years, it will be on Center Street, closed, so we'll close between 4th and 3rd. In the future, we would love to move it maybe to the park or somewhere else. I know that 4th Street has been asking for some excitement over on this side of town. So, we're willing to do that. We just, because we were asked to do this a little bit behind the 8 ball, we didn't want to make too many crazy changes. And we just wanted to be able to put a good show on and bring some really good entertainment downtown for families and everybody else who wants it. And right now we've got basically the lineup done. We have a couple of empty spots. Jason Gittinger, who is part of the Commission for the Arts, is helping us with the music this year and helping us with some of the logistics that we weren't aware of. Well, now we are definitely, but he's helping us with some of the the back end of the AV and the back, just some of the things that he has been doing for many years. And with the summer concert series, honestly, seeing as how we are the Chamber of Commerce, my goal is to make sure that we are helping commerce in downtown Royal Oak. So one of the things that I vowed at CMC, we will not have any beer tents, alcohol, anything. We will not have any food vendors, because that's what downtown Royal Oak is right now. We have a social district, we have food, we don't need to provide that. I want people, I am the commerce, I want people to go in and spend money in these businesses. Mm-hmm. So, and that is my goal going forward. We don't need any of those things because Royal Oak is that right now, and retail, but we don't need to have any food or beer. And because of the social district, and I pulled the social district list up, we've got Condado Tacos, Gusling Alley, Mesa, the Sidebar, and Tom's Oyster Bar within spitting distance of that location, and they're all participating in the social district. So I want people to go there if that's what they want to do and have a beverage while they walk around. We also have the ice cream. We have Little Bros and Golden Cone across the street. No need to have an ice cream anything there either. So anyway, one of the other things that I mentioned at CMC is I'm very interested in making sure that once all is said and done and all the expenses are accounted for, I really want to give a donation to not only the Commission for the Arts, but or through I think it would probably be through the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. But it's important to me that we give back and we support the arts. And back in the day, Michael will remember being on our board, we set aside a chunk of change for after every major event. So Bloom, at that point, Clay and Glass, and the garage sale for donations, and I would like to get back to that at some point and make sure we start giving back to the community that's been so generous to us. So we do that for Barktoberfest right now, but I'd like to do it for the 3 events that are downtown. So starting with Summer Concert Series this year. I also know that what's it called? Sorry. Oh, the Royal Oak Outdoor Art Fair. They are struggling right now. I've heard that there's been some, not struggling because of anything the city's doing, but just, like us, it's hard to get vendors, it's hard to get artists, it's just, there's so much competition these days. And I know that group has also supported many nonprofits throughout the years, and I would love to talk to Carol Card, who's part of that organization, and find out what she's been helping with, and maybe that can be something else we can help with a donation to a nonprofit. What else?
We were talking about higher quality acts and...
Yeah, yes. So this year and going forward, I asked when we started doing this with Jason, I said, can we have, I really wanted some diversity, and I I don't want to say anything mean about any other cities, but I look at the lineup at some other cities, and it is basically 7 nights of the exact same type of people. And it was really important to me that we had some different things going on. So we have hired, this is the first time they've done this, we're going to have a DJ in between each one of the acts. They've never done that. It's just been silent or someone's iPod. So we've got a very high energy DJ that is coming. His name's DJ Invisible. I watched the video and he's awesome. So he'll be kind of making announcements throughout the night, talking about the social district. And we also wanted to do for social district, I will have signs, and we'll have announcements letting people know to do that. But and then with the acts, yes, I'm very interested in having some different kind of folk come in, and so we've kind of really, I feel like Royal Oak represents a lot of different people, and we aspire to represent a lot of different people. So it's important to me that the music represents that as well. So yes, different acts. Not all the same old. Like I said, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball, just because of our planning. So there's some things that, some things we can't control right now. And one of the other things is there has been so many years of people really just doing this because they care about Royal Oak and they care about the Commission for the Arts / Jason, and we really wanted to make sure that we were able to pay these bands what they deserve to come out and do this. They've all just come through COVID too, and they need some support as well. So it was important to me that we paid people what they're worth. So, yeah.
Okay, any questions for Shelley? Anybody? I know this has been at the Consumer Market Committee. Director Osbeck, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll make a motion.
Director Osbeck? Okay, seconded by Director Yazbek. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And you're all set?
Thanks, you guys. Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay. Item number 7, Farmers Market sponsorship requests.
Shelley's here.
Okay. Yes, we'll let you get right into it. I do have some questions here.
So basically, this is our Sights and Sounds concert series. We started that last year. We did in the fall. We found out it was our first year. We found out a few items that weren't the best choice of like the day of the week. It was on a Friday. It was also kind of between Arts Beats Needs and Dream Cruise and all those items. So this year we've kind of revamped it, and we've got a whole different set, and we're going with our food truck rallies. So it's on a Wednesday night. And we have a whole different list of bands too. We're trying to kick it up a notch and get things more oriented to the different family at different times throughout the night. It's 4 to 9 p.m. so we have stuff for the kids earlier on in the night, and then stuff later on. It progresses as the night goes on. We have tried to include some local restaurants, but it is hard because they're short-staffed, so we are really helping to try to push the social district. So that we figured that we have several participating restaurants within walking distance of us. Our goal is to eventually probably expand into the park, but keep the music in the west lot, but then try to get more. I have a list of about 150 to 180 artists / craft people, and we thought it'd be nice to have pop-up, art fairs that can expand into the park as the city allows that to happen. Right now, we're just looking for, if you go through the packet, you'll see for the audio, we're trying to also make sure that that's all covered. We have DTE Green Team is really interested in participating, so we're working with them right now. But again, That's been more of a recent development, so we're kind of hoping to get some help to get this rolling.
Shelley, I have one question here. The material provided here, I have one sheet that says Beats and Sound sponsorship for one amount. I have a Maestro presenting sponsor for a different amount. And then I have another presenting sponsorship for a different amount. So I'm kind of confused whether these are, if one's part of the other, or...
Henry Ford is what we're, what we were hoping for from just the DDA was the sights and, or the Beats and Sounds sponsorship.
Okay, that's fine.
That was the only thing we were including in that. What I think we were trying to do is show you what we were working with
I got
now
you.
DT Green Team and with Henry Ford Hospital.
Okay.
So yeah, we should make that more clear.
Okay. And this is an event that happened last year.
It did happen last year. And it was, parts of it were extremely successful, but we found out that we really felt that the worst part was having the Friday night and just the time of year. Plus we were hit with some bad weather issues, so we've kind of restructured it too, so we have no problem moving indoors if necessary. We've got the stage on board from Oakland County that we would use in the west lot. We do have our own stage if we need to move inside the building at a moment's notice. We do have that luxury, so that's kind of nice. So, but we were not set up in that manner last year.
Okay, the series itself is 4?
4, and it starts in May, but the June 8th, it's the 8th, right? Yeah, the June 8th is the Family Pride, so we're also working with the city, the Family Pride event with different, and they're doing entertainment. We're letting I guess Carol and Judy are more or less working on that to try to get that appropriate entertainment. So, and each night we tried to theme it as well, and we have the children's, that part was really successful last year. So they came early and the families really loved that, had dinner, had something to eat, which is also another reason why we thought it'd be really great to combine it with our food truck rallies, because we already have a really high participation of people. And being on a Wednesday night, I think it would be better for families. And it ends at 9, so it's not a late night event.
Okay. My last question, I think, is this. This is 4 to 9, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The little insert on the top or on the front that was clipped to the very front kind of gives you the rundown of everything that happens each night and which bands are playing.
Okay. My last question is then, so I think from what you said, if there is inclement weather, the show will still go on.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Questions?
Is this inside or is it outside?
It's in our west parking lot. And that's why we'd like to integrate it kind of over into the park again. I've talked to Daniel about that, if we can do so. I know it's kind of new this year, who can do what in the park, but that's our goal, is to make it, expand it. We would always keep the music and have the farmer's market there. But again, we have that luxury of having, if we know the weather's going to be bad, we can rearrange everything to move it inside.
Okay. I know the committee discussed this. Or no, this just came to us. That's right, I'm sorry. I've got it mixed up with one of the other ones here.
This request came after the CMC already met, but I sat down and discussed kind of the process with them.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Shelley here? Okay.
I guess I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any, you said there is opportunity for restaurants to participate. Is there any opportunity for retailers to do you have vendor tables or?
Yes, absolutely.
And do you have, would this money go to support their participation in it, or is that a separate fee, or?
We're charging $40 for a vendor booth, and so then that just goes into paying for like the face painter or the balloon meister and
the overall
just different
expenses.
expenses.
But you could set something up for local in our restaurants. We've tried to include them a lot, and I understand it's really hard, because they don't have enough employees to help man it and stuff. We do have a certain amount of volunteers to help with that too.
We actually did.
Director Roswick.
Sorry. I think if we are going to support this, I'd like to only support the first and then bring the rest into committee. Because I'm looking at the Royal Oak Chamber's request for the summer concert series and this, and they're both, I mean, if you look at some of the dates, they're back to back. I would have liked to see more coordination, and I feel like you might be stepping on only one date really goes back to
August
back,
10th.
but I don't know. I would have liked this to come to committee.
You still have that option.
So I recommend it going to committee. I recommend it going to committee.
Does anybody have any further discussion regarding this at this time?
I support that.
Okay. That sounds like the consensus. Daniel?
My only question on sending it to committee is this board meets again after the first event of this cycle.
If we want to approve one event, I'm willing to approve one event, but I don't know if I want to approve the series.
Or we schedule a meeting to meet beforehand.
Yeah,
I mean, it says May 2nd is our deadline, right?
but we'd have to have the board meet before that.
Oh, true, good point.
That's what he's saying. So I will let the chairman decide if he wants to see this in committee or not. Tony, I was saying to him.
Tony, well, our options is to send this to the committee, which when the board meets in full, we'll miss one of these dates by then already. Now that's, either here or there, or I guess Director Rosbeck has brought up the idea of breaking this down into four different, and supporting the first one if we want to go down that path. I just don't know if there's full support or what to do that, but we can attempt that if we want to, or hold off on this.
Or not support the motion.
Typically, these go to the committee first, so I guess I would support that process.
Okay. I guess what I would say to the applicants here is that this probably needs to go to committee. Now, what I think could potentially happen, and this is making no promises, but potentially what could happen is this could go to committee and be approved, and you would still get the full amount. You might not be getting it on a timely basis that you thought you would.
Correct.
So that is, even if one of the events occurred, the application could still be approved at some point. So I think that's probably the best avenue for us to take at this point, because otherwise it's going to die at the table.
Right. No, we totally understand.
Okay. So I'm going to send this directly to the committee. Make sure that the committee meets on a timely basis and make sure that this gets back on our agenda for this board. If the committee wants them to be at the committee meeting or somebody representative, then we can arrange that too.
I would say we usually, maybe I'm mistaken, but we have in the past had a farmers market representative on our committee, so I don't know where that may have lapsed. And
Either way, I mean,
yeah, so
that's, well, we can definitely, have them at the meeting to answer any questions and bring any input back. And if there's been any changes between now and then, you can address those at that time too.
so
That's my recommendation.
That sounds great.
So let's go with that, Rick.
Sounds great.
Okay? Thank you very much. Yes.
You were talking about the retailers. Today I had a vendor come in and she gave me the money for having a table in May, and it's from it's called Restore, and they're opening in May. So they've reached out to us wanting to be involved in community activities and stuff like that. So yeah, we're open to any business that's wanting to be a part of it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 8, downtown window murals. Daniel?
Yeah, so this is a proposal I put before the Consumer Marketing Committee at their March 30th meeting. In essence, working with a mural artist who also works in the window mural realm to buy first come, first serve to the first 100 businesses in downtown that are interested in doing it. Have murals of floral prints put on their windows in celebration of the beginning of summer, and starting to go up during, of course, if approvals are granted, going up within a quick time frame so that it's in lead up to Royal Oak and Bloom, as well as is occurring during the resurfacing project on Main. So the overall goal of this is to basically put up some temporary placemaking in downtown. I know that the discussion is often, getting more media buzz, getting more social media buzz as far as people taking selfies in front of things or and posting that and tagging downtown Royal Oak. This is the opportunity. So if we're putting big floral print, nice looking murals on these windows, which if you look at the examples in the packet, the designs that we've encouraged the mural artists to look towards are the simple, sophisticated sort of designs and nothing that is in the cartoon realm or anything fully covering the window so that you can't see into the window. And overall, this project is meant to bring up some pedestrian traffic. If there's additional questions as far as the process, the artist Lisa Littell is also here and is prepared to answer those, as well as myself.
Okay. Any questions for either? Director Rossman.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Motion by Director Rossman.
Support for
Support by
discussion
Director
purposes.
Brake.
I just have a question. Does the store have a choice of which flowers from the...
We can, in my discussions with Lisa, if the store has a vision as far as the flowers that they want on there, then that's completely customizable to the storefront.
And typically I found too, with the amount of stores that want to participate and just the volume, once it gets started, people, what's going on? We want to do this too. And there's a really big buzz about it. So I find it's almost easier to control that aspect that Daniel's kind of approved, given me the creative license within a certain, limitation. So sure, if somebody wants tulips or, they really love red something, I try to accommodate that. But beyond that, it's really kind of sticking to a very specific vision and keeping it cohesive and professional and moving really quickly.
I have to say, when you employed it in Berkeley, it was eye-catching, and you drive down the street realizing you're looking at signs of buildings and saying, oh, who had their windows painted? So I do see this as a good energy bringer for people to look at the retail spaces around town.
And I just wanted to add on that note too, it was absolutely, I've been a professional artist for 25 years doing, permanent murals and do window art as well. The amount of businesses, people just visiting town, and then the residents in town on a daily basis were stopping, hugging, thanking me, saying that they're now taking their families out daily to come to town, from wherever they're living, blocks and blocks away, just to notice the changes that were happening in this 2-mile radius. Facebook pages just blowing up with the excitement when it was scraped off between seasons. People were very sad about it and were so excited and looked forward to the next season that it was coming back. Zero complaints except from the artists because it was really hot outside and really cold outside. When it got too cold for people to be walking as much, they were stopping in their cars. And so, like I mentioned, this was people that lived in town, people that were just visiting, and then the businesses themselves. So it was drawing this energy and attention, and everybody just wanted to participate. So very feel-good project.
And what is that season?
A neighboring city that I participate with, I do currently for them autumn, and then I roll right into the holiday season.
Gotcha. So this would be
Test.
This one is a test to see if this is successful in Royal Oak. If it is, I would approach this board with the option to look at potential campaigns in the future.
And we've really, been honing in. Those are just kind of some samples of some work that I did, a couple new designs, but we're really looking to specifically brand for Royal Oak. So whatever I'm doing elsewhere, we see somewhere else, we're really looking to, really define a look, make it cohesive and flow. Just to address in general, as a professional artist, it's about compositions. If somebody has, a full window full of window display, I know how to work around that. And so it's not a matter of taking over the window or making opaque designs. It's really, it's there to view and go, oh, that's so cute and pretty, and to help attract people to that business. But it's never taking over. It's not the first thing you see. It's just really enhancing the environment.
Okay. I do believe that once people see it and it starts up, I think it'll catch on, as it moves forward. But I guess my question to you, Daniel, is are you going to put together some sort of packet or something to go out to the business to notify them in advance?
My plan is to do a half sheet. I've already started some of these conversations, and some businesses that are on board, Freshie, Lily Seafood, the WROK on 3rd, all business owners that have indicated, plus some more that are somewhere on a list.
Okay, great. Okay. So we do have a suggested resolution.
And we made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, we did. And we were second, okay. Seeing nothing else, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Okay, item number 9, advertising plan 2022-23.
I feel like today is a lot of me talking.
Oh, it's good. That's good. There we go.
So again, at the busy March 30th meeting of the Consumer Marketing Committee, discussed the advertising media buying plan that you see attached to the memo. The approach that I took in meeting with the very many people that wanted to sell us advertising space was to take a multi-approach of print media with your visual media of the theater and the cable Comcast Effect TV that we've already worked with before, and then also add in streaming audio. Traditionally, our market shares that we're looking to go for are those young city solos, the folks that are in their 20s, maybe early 30s, young professionals. And a lot of the research is showing that those folks are on streaming platforms more than they're on the radio. As a personal anecdote, I can confirm that. But this really is taking a multi-pronged approach. I will note on the Screen Vision Media portion, which is a business item you'll hear after this for one that's occurring this fiscal year. The one this fiscal year would be kind of a litmus test to kind of test the waters with advertising in that space, see if we like the engagement numbers we get back from those dollars and if they're beneficial. And then, as you can see on this graph that I've done, you'll notice that I like graphs. The left-hand column talks a lot about what the date range would be or due dates, kind of what the target market might be for things like streaming. And then when you look at the center column, that's more so kind of top level what the aim would be for that campaign. So this Q3 on Royal Oak Today would be to try and get the information out about the social district, how it works, where it is. The Q4 would be focused on shopping local for the holidays. And then you can see that as we go all the way down, there's a theme that fits that. The overall actual messaging of this would be worked out with Siren as our strategic comm PR specialist in-house, well, not in-house, but in agreement, and working out what the exact wording would be and where we want to place those. Not where we want to place those things, I'm sorry. Where we want to go with that messaging and how it cohesively ties into one overall annual advertising plan, as opposed to purchasing here, purchasing there. This is looking at the overall plan. As a note, anything that's purchased out of this plan would still come before you by way of a contract and a resolution. So you still have the ability to say, we like this vision, and then down the road, say I bring one of these contracts before you and you say, oh, this is too costly. And that would be a way to move with that, but this is just the overall goal sort of thing. The bottom portion, you'll notice the not color-coded graph. You'll note that Siren PR in there is at 90,000. That is a discussion of the Consumer Marketing Committee of after the current contract expires. Myself would be taking over the social media and the newsletter portions based on my experience and my education. Fully comfortable doing that as part of this job. And then you'll notice below that is still photography. Social video is broken separate from commercial video, and effectively kind of changes the way that we are contracting for these things, because I'd like to move away from retainers and move closer on those sort of items as one-off projects.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Daniel? Director Roswick.
I make a motion to approve the downtown manager's purchasing plan.
Motion by Director Roswick.
I second it.
Second by Director London. Any questions or discussion?
I want to just say this is great. As someone who works in the field, this is exactly what we've been looking for, and I appreciate all the hard work you put into this memo and plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion passes. Okay, Screen Vision Media, Daniel?
Similar to what I was just speaking about as far as this being a litmus test, what I will point out is the two resolutions at the bottom of this memo. One is for actually purchasing the advertising space. The other portion is working with WROK, who is a subcontractor of Decal that we work with on video already, to basically take the video that they've already used for Downtownable and recycle it, and put it together and edit it in a way that makes a cohesive, nice commercial that's borrowing all of the stuff we've already paid for, but is basically getting the best bang for our buck of things that we already have in-house.
Okay, I don't have a resolution before me.
It's
No,
a
go to the second.
Oh,
The underlying item.
okay.
The memo didn't come in until late yesterday.
Gotcha.
So if you jump back out of there, go to the item underneath it.
Oh, I gotcha. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Any questions for staff, Daniel, Director Roswick?
I'd like to just make a motion to approve both resolutions.
Motion by Director Roswick.
I second it.
Second by Director London. Note there is two resolutions here. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Okay, reports. Tim, did you want to go through these or?
No, those are all just informational items
Okay.
that you receive on a regular monthly basis.
Okay, so when you have time, you can look those over. And then we will move on to item 12, budget amendments.
What I did receive in the last 3 weeks or so was a request from the city engineer for the DDA to consider providing funding for the mast arm style traffic signals that are planned for the downtown area. The board may recall that you did allocate funding towards this project in the current fiscal year, and then later it was indicated that the road funds from the city would cover that, so we kind of moved away from it as far as the budgeting this fiscal year, and what was originally planned for next fiscal year as part of the mast arm installation. So the concept of funding this and moving forward with the mast arm style has been an item that the DDA was supportive of. As I said, you reallocated some of the funds when we were told that the road funds would cover it. It's my understanding now that that's not possible as we're going through the budgeting process. So the engineer is looking to see if the DDA wanted to go back and provide some of that funding. In the current fiscal year, 21-22, there is still a balance of unallocated funds in the miscellaneous contracted services of about $500,000. The rest was allocated to other activities several months back. Next fiscal year, 22-23, we didn't fund it as originally planned because, again, the indication was it wasn't needed. So at one point, there was some discussion of funding it. In addition to that, there are some additional streets that weren't included in the original discussion approvals of the board, and those would be the ones 4th Street and the ones on Washington. You'll see the second table that I provided in the memo, and the highlighted yellow at the end were the ones that the DDA had discussed and considered funding. Since that 2019-2020 table was generated, the estimates for 4th Street and Washington Lafayette have been upgraded, and the engineering department's ready to move forward with those probably next fiscal year. The DDA also paid for the engineering service, design services for this. So you'll see those circled and highlighted in that second chart as well. So you have committed funding to this in the past. The reason I'm bringing it back before you is obviously you've moved in a different direction. You're looking to whether you wanted to allocate funding to help cover what's ongoing in the current fiscal year, and then whether you wanted to consider allocating funds in the 2022-2023 fiscal year, which you've already seen and approved a prior budget. That's why I've indicated them as amendments. I did not offer a resolution. I wasn't sure wasn't recommending anything in particular to the board. And if you need to refer this to committee for discussion, that would be fine from my standpoint. I think the city engineer is trying to finalize her budget through the city process, but it is what it is.
Director Roswick.
Just really quickly, is it a supply issue, the reason these costs are more expensive that are not highlighted versus the costs that we knew of previously? Or is it just because of age?
Well, some of the increased cost was the chart was a preliminary engineering estimate, and then you actually get the actual cost when it's bidded out and constructed, and you did provide funding to cover that. But I just wanted to show that there was a past history of the DDA's involvement in covering these. And I'd be more than happy if you wanted to refer to committee to bring the city engineer and have that whole discussion with you. moving forward, and we could have that ready for May's meeting. But if you were going to say no, then I'd just give her that indication as well, so.
Is the total ask the 2.7?
Pardon me?
Is the total ask 2.7 in the roundabout way? Is that they're looking for funding
Yes.
of that 2.7?
Yes.
Okay.
There was some discussion too as regards to road resurfacing in future years, but I didn't want to go past the 2 budget years we're currently in.
So, I have a question. Tim, can you just give me a roundabout figure here? Of the 2.7, we're looking at 1.1 for the mast arm, including the 500,000 already in the budget.
Well,
let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
How much of this is road work?
None of it.
None of this is road work.
It's all related to the traffic signals.
Okay.
Chairman Sophia,
Yes.
maybe I'm wrong, but didn't the city get a chunk of change with regards to COVID and infrastructure? And wouldn't that be something that the city would look to use it on? Or am I wrong with that fund?
Well, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the city. I do know that they hired a firm to research the expenditures of those funds.
Got it.
I guess that's the best I can say. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah.
So, in the coming months, that we're going to do an engagement process. So there's a preliminary set of expenditures. There's a lot of infrastructure projects that we're taking on. So, if you feel that this is more important than others, then voice that. But there's a number of recommendations that came from staff, but we'll be going through a citizens engagement process probably during the months of May and June, and I would invite you to participate so we can take that input. But to say put this at the top of the list, you can't assure that at this point. But there's something to be said. It's a noticeable physical change to the intersections by having these mast arms, because they have the decorative signings that show the street names for wayfinding purposes. There's a lot of advantages to them. Certainly they're expensive items, but I think as far as having a noticeable permanent improvement, it's worth the expenditure. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Yasbeck.
Yeah, I would move to refer it to either the Infrastructure Committee or the Business Marketing Committee to evaluate the impact on this year's budget and next year's budget and the new plan.
Okay, I have a motion by Director Yasbeck,
I'll support.
supported by Director Keith. Any other discussion at this time? Yeah, I think that's a prudent thing to do here. I have a bunch of questions that I would like to get answered and look at these individual intersections and before we move forward with approving these funds. So if there's nothing else, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Anything else to bring to the board's attention? Mr. Twing? Mr. Brake?
I have one question.
Director Yasbeck?
We approved supporting the, what's Jay's commission for the pancake breakfast?
The Memorial Day breakfast, yes.
And there was some discussion about allowing or offering downtown dollars at that breakfast. I forget where that ended. Are we proceeding with that, not proceeding with that?
I don't remember if that was part of the resolution or not.
We allocated $800 towards a free breakfast.
Free breakfast.
That request hasn't.
We didn't do anything with downtown dollars.
Well, no, you didn't do anything with downtown dollars, but the motion that was passed was $2,200 for the breakfast and $800 for providing free breakfasts. That's the only motion that was passed.
Director Yazbek, I don't recall that conversation around downtown dollars and the Memorial Day parade.
I think there was some some discussion with Mr. Dunstan regarding that, but I don't think we took any official action.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't, and when is that? That's May 31st?
Yeah.
Around that time? Yeah. Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to bring to the board?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Director Rossman. Second by Director Keith. Okay. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and we are adjourned.